Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so update on the DeMar DeRozan Harrison Barnes situation. When I made the video, they hadn't completed that trade, but now that it's complete, I understand that Harrison Barnes has been rerouted to San Antonio, which I think makes a lot more sense than him going to Chicago, since Chicago's kind of in a not so winning situation. Plus they just drafted Bruce Ellis. Still got Zach LaVine who can play some three. Picked up Patrick Williams, who I'm not sure if he's a 3 or a 4. So they didn't really need Harrison Barnes per se. All he is doing is getting in the way of Bruce Ellis in some ways, stepping in front of him for the opportunity that I think could really be a good thing. He's going home and all that stuff, back to Chicago where he's from. So ain't no sense in Harrison Barnes going out there. San Antonio's a much more healthy fit in my opinion. Even though they do have Keldon Johnson, have Devin Vassell, who could also play the 3. They picked up Stephon Castle, who wants to be a 1, but is probably a 2 or a 3 in real life. But for now, you pick up a guy like Harrison Barnes. Now you can see the makings of a win-now type situation starting to form in San Antonio, which is necessary given the fact that I think Wemby is ready to win. But I said that when he was a rookie. I said that before last year when he was drafted. I'm like, yo, y'all sure this kid want to wait to win? He's coming in with the type of skill set he has. Maybe you want to give him a rookie season to see how far advanced he can be. But I felt like they should have been doing what they're doing now last year. But they're doing it now, man. They're putting some win-now pieces around him. Of course, you brought in Chris Paul, $11 million for a year, which I think is kind of crazy for what Chris Paul is expected to do. But, you know, Chris Paul can always play basketball. It's just how much of it you're going to get from him, really. He can always help you on the offensive end, and getting the ball to Wemby is ultimately what you're asking him to do. So if his legs hold up, you could potentially have a nice piece that really helps do what San Antonio was failing to do last year, which was get Wemby the ball consistently over and over and over again. Chris Paul's probably one of the best ever to do that. So you feel good about him being able to potentially provide that type of dynamic. So they don't have to run people like Sohan at the 3 and all that. And Trey Jones is a nice player, but you don't want him having to run the point guard position in that situation. So you want more options, rather. So that's what that does, is provide them not only those options, but also gives Trey Jones and Stephon Castle a mentor on the court, OG that can kind of help them, get Wemby the ball and kind of up their basketball IQ from where it is. So I think Stephon Castle's in a great spot for San Antonio because he is somebody who I think is going to do a lot of intangible things. He doesn't stretch the floor very well, but when you got Wemby who can do so, Vassell who can do so, Keldon who can do so, Chris Paul who in theory should be able to hit some threes, now you get to the space where it's like it's not as important that your Stephon Castle piece be a stretch the floor player. Usually most teams don't have stretch 5s. They got Wemby, so that's going to be fine for that. So I think at the end of the day, the most important thing for San Antonio is to just establish some continuity with getting Wemby the ball, because last year that was the real knock on their team, besides their team defense without Wemby being bad. I think Stephon Castle is going to help a lot with that. So should Harrison Barnes. But, they were seen too many times not giving him the ball when he was open. He'd be flashing into the lane, stuff like that. They wouldn't pass up opportunities to pass him the ball for shots of their own. And so if I'm Popovich, I'm not going to go through another season of that. Chris Paul should help a lot. So should Stephon Castle. They should be, in theory, looking for him repeatedly if they know what's good for him. So that's what comes to mind for me in that situation. I think Harrison Barnes is going to further establish a culture of winning. A guy who's had an NBA championship in this league with the Golden State Warriors, who was, of course, moved away to make way for Kevin Durant, but a part of that 73-win team too. So we know that Harrison knows how to win. He's still fairly young. I think he's only 31 years of age, so he's still in his prime years, ready to rock. So I like the fit there. In theory, like I said, he's probably moving Keldon Johnson a little bit out the way, but I think that's okay. Keldon will still get plenty of minutes at the 4. Sohan, when Sohan sits down, that kind of thing. So they'll have minutes enough for everybody, I think. should be all right. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm wondering if San Antonio has another move in them, because they do have a lot of picks. And if they are pivoting out of this win now thing, maybe they don't need those picks as much. Or pivoting into win now, pivoting out of the rebuild, which I think they've shown in picking up Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul. Maybe it would make more sense for them to mortgage a few of those picks, since they have plenty of them, try to go after another piece. You know, I don't know who would necessarily fit that bill, but I think about a guy like Brandon Ingram. That could be interesting when you start piling on that type of length of BI and Wemby. That's some serious length on the floor. And so when you start talking about what's possible out there, you start wondering if it makes a lot of sense for them to pivot toward a different type of player. You know, I like Harrison Barnes, but he ain't going to stop Brandon Ingram from playing. And you're probably going to have to move salary with a guy like Keldon Johnson in order to get BI. Maybe even Harrison Barnes as well. So I wonder if they're going to consider something like that, or if that's something they would already be thinking about right now. So that's something I'm saying to you all. I don't know where BI is going, but I don't think New Orleans is going to pay him. But then again, we've seen situations like this where guys try to move a player that they don't want to pay, and they're not able to, and then they start the season with the guy and then fall in love with him again, and end up paying him anyway. So I wouldn't rule that out for Brandon Ingram's situation. I would not rule that out, because New Orleans, now that they have DeJounte Murray in place, has a more pure point guard, somebody who's going to create gravity in his own right, provide more overall production in his own right. And as a result, I think New Orleans probably has a different dynamic for a guy like Brandon Ingram when a pure point guard is actually on the floor. So, you know, I don't know if they like BI enough to pay him as much as he wants to be paid. But I think they have a winning situation if they don't move BI. I think New Orleans is one of the more improved teams in the Western Conference. So I keep an eye open for New Orleans possibly not really move Brandon Ingram, even though it's been reported that that contract that they would ultimately give him is not something they're looking forward to doing at all. But if they can work out something, maybe they'd be happy to have him overall, because that team looks pretty good, man. New Orleans looks pretty good this year. I think they are at least a play-in tournament team. And in the Western Conference, you know, most teams are a play-in tournament team if you're in the playoff range. You're 1 or 2 wins away from being out of the playoffs altogether in the Western Conference. 2 through 10, basically. So I think they're in that mix now. They have to be really considered serious. So that's one thing. And also I look at another team that's interesting to me is the Sacramento Kings. Picking up DeMar DeRozan. Their starting lineup looks mighty talented. And I said I don't think they're going to be a championship team with what it is they put together. But again, here goes another team like New Orleans that should be a solidified play-in tournament / playoff team. They should be in that top 12, which is all you really want to do, is try to get as good as you can, give yourself the best opportunity at a puncher's chance. And so when you think about teams like Golden State, who I think potentially have taken a step backwards, different teams like the Clippers, who have also taken some steps backwards, you have to think that it makes a lot of sense to consider maybe a team like that stepping forward and having an opportunity in the Western Conference to replace them. So I think Sacramento, you have to wonder if they have the piece in place that can ultimately guard that big center like Jokic, which is always a concern in my mind, because I look at Sabonis as a nice star-level center, but when it really comes down to it, he doesn't have any success against those guys defensively at all. But they do have a hell of a lot of talent to work with, and that's what it is that I see there. A significantly more potent starting lineup when you consider De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and or Devin Carter, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and of course talking about Sabonis. That's a hell of a lineup right there, man. Very, very serious lineup that the Sacramento Kings are putting out there. Probably a more talented lineup than most. And the reality is DeMar DeRozan had some of his best statistical years in Chicago. He's gotten better since leaving Toronto and San Antonio. So when you talk about a guy who is able to take advantage of spots on the floor that a lot of people don't defend very well, and then you slap him next to a heavy hitter like De'Aaron Fox and a rookie winner like guy in Devin Carter, who I think people aren't taking into account just how much damage he could potentially do in whatever role they give him. Because that's a damage doer right there. He is a rebounder, a defensive guy. He's going to hound you, man. And I think he can be more effective for them than Davion Mitchell was able to be in that same role. So you consider that. I think the Sacramento Kings are a dangerous team. I think they are. I think they may miss the floor spacing of Harrison Barnes a little bit, but it's not like you're not significantly upgrading just the same in DeMar DeRozan. That's a significant upgrade. And somebody who can hit some last-second shots. You're talking about putting together two of the more clutch basketball players in today's game in De'Aaron Fox and DeMar DeRozan. Two guys that really do well in the final minutes of games. So Sacramento's going to be lighting the beam a lot more than I gave them credit for last night. And after further thought, I think that team is a serious play-in, play-off team, which, like I said, in the Western Conference, that's really all you can demand of yourself. Since there's so much parity, you want to replace the Clippers, you want to replace Golden State. And so those teams got better, man. Those teams, the Western Conference, it's a real thing. And I tell you, that Dallas Mavericks team, staying the same as they were last year, I think it's a high chance that they're not going to be pleased with their season. Even though they did some good things in the playoffs, I do not like the exodus of Jones. I really hate that they lost Derrick Jones Jr. to the Clippers. And I just think it's going to show on the basketball floor. I don't think they have the point of attack defense that people think they may be able to put on the floor. You know, Klay Thompson is a negative defender at this stage in his career. And somebody who may be taking shots away from others if he's having a cold night and continues to be intentional on shooting a lot. We saw that with the Golden State Warriors. He'll attempt 16 shots and make only 3 of them. Like, that's going to take away from the Dallas Mavericks if something like that were to occur. I could totally see if he's struggling, he start to have a diminished role in a way that he never would have had in Golden State. So while there's some upside for certain things, I think the downside is there when you consider that fit and just what it means for the Dallas Mavericks to have everything rotating around what's his name? Doncic. You know, everything is centered around Doncic. So if you're taking shots away from Doncic, if you're not defending in a way that makes up for Doncic's mistakes, it can be a double-edged sword for you. Not only are you going to start to lose minutes, but it could be a bad fit quickly. You could see a world where they want to trade Klay Thompson quickly. So that's what I'm saying to you guys. I'm not overly excited about that fit. I think Klay, in the long run, will wish he went to the Lakers. I really do. I think he will, in the end, he will wish he didn't overthink this Laker thing. Because at the end of the day, Dallas is a place where if you can't get in line with Luka Doncic, you're out of there. At least with the Lakers, you would have known that you were needed. Your spacing was needed. And you would have had a little more, I think the word is, I'm trying to look for a word. I guess it's like security. Security with the Lakers if you Klay Thompson. Because at the end of the day, you know the Lakers need you. You know that the Lakers are going to value your spacing because of their core not being able to shoot. That is not a problem that Dallas has, bro. At all. They don't need spacing necessarily. You'll mess around and find out. And I've said this already once. But your role will be similar to Tim Hardaway. And you saw what happened with Tim Hardaway. They benched him and traded him. You know what I mean? Like, that's who Klay is intentionally or could potentially rather be. So I'm not excited about that, man. A lot of people are excited about Klay in Dallas. I don't think Dallas is a better basketball team. I really don't. I do not think they're a better basketball team. I think they're a little worse than they were last year. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't think you can afford to let that be the case in a Western Conference that, you know, certain teams are getting better and other teams are not so bad that they're going to bottom out. Like the Clippers, to be honest with you, are not so bad that you expect them to bottom out. I don't. I think that they've picked up enough Derrick Jones Jr.'s and Kevin Porter Jr.'s to where if Kawhi and James Harden have a good season for themselves, they're a team you're still going to lose some games to. they're going to get their 40 wins on the season, which means it's going to take away from some of these wins and some of these teams that are not getting better. You're going to lose to the Clippers 1 or 2 times this year. So it's like, it would have been easier for a team like Dallas to not make moves that ultimately make them significantly better if some of these teams that are potentially going away were a little worse than they're actually expected to be. Golden State, same thing. I don't like Golden State this year, but they still have Steph Curry, and you still have the dynamic of multiple shooters around. You know, with Buddy Hield, that's still a lethal shooter, probably one that may be more effective than Klay Thompson at this point. And if they're able to find a way to get Markkanen, now they're back in the game. So I don't know what it's going to take for them to get Markkanen, but if I'm them, I'm probably going to make a serious push toward getting that player. And if they do, look out. Steph Curry, Markkanen, that's scary, for real. So, you know, I don't know if that some of these teams are done making moves. But if I'm Dallas, standing still, thinking I'm just going to get back to the finals, or bringing in Wash Clay and thinking that's about to just fix my situation, no. I'm going to make a strong argument that you probably need what Derrick Jones Jr. does more than what Klay Thompson does if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You need that point of attack defense more than you need another three-point shooter. So, I don't know, man. I don't doubt Dallas will be in that play-in tournament range. They're still there, but as far as them getting back to the finals, I don't think so. The only way I really see them doing that is if Quentin Grimes and Omax Prosper really help them perimeter defense-wise. They got to be able to get away from non-defensive players and put those defensive players on the floor to have the success that I ultimately envision they would need. And in that situation, you're probably removing Klay Thompson from the floor. You're probably removing Kyrie Irving from the floor in that situation. So are you a better team when you're better defenders on the floor? Not in that situation. Nah, you're not. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, it's going to take some guys stepping up and doing some real things for them. Quentin Grimes is a good pickup for the Dallas Mavericks for sure. But that Klay Thompson fit, I just think that's more talk than walk in this situation. And they're going to find out that if he doesn't have a renaissance year, they're going to want to push him to the bench. They are. He ain't in Golden State. He don't have the cachet there. He don't have the love there. And I have a feeling he could disappear there. Not necessarily fully disappear, but like turn into a real role player in Dallas, which is not something he anticipates at all. But I see it coming. So it is what it is, man. The whole thing revolves around Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving was able to make it work with Luka Doncic, and that's why he's still the Dallas Mavericks. Klay's going to do the same thing. Can't have weird energy, all that pouting and all that. Luka already has the type of body language where he's going to react to that. When you bringing down the aura there, he ain't going to contribute to you feeling better. That's what I get from Luka Doncic. He has his own stuff when it comes to that kind of thing. So it could potentially be a little volatile of a locker room too. But we'll see, man. We'll see. We will see. At the end of the day, it's a team that went to the NBA Finals, so I don't want to lowball them too far or underplay them a little too much. But I see potential for them not to be the team that they were last year. And I think a lot of people are expecting them to get back to the finals. Not me. So, yeah, man, and OKC Thunder is as good as advertised. I think the OKC Thunder is by far the deepest team in the league. I think they could afford to maybe overpay for Hartenstein. I like Hartenstein on that team. As I told you guys, I didn't think that Chet Holmgren should probably be playing the center position solely. You like Chet at the 5, but not against everybody, not all the time. So I think that this gives them not over somebody who can play that position, but be a hustle player of the highest order, somebody who's going to get offensive rebounds, someone who's going to make plays for others. You know, I really like Hartenstein, always have, and him adding himself to the OKC Thunder, you couple that with AC, Alex Caruso, and you're talking about two players that are going to help you on both sides of the floor and be quicker to the basketball than maybe some others. And then you add Cassar Wallace to that situation year 2. I think they're a dangerous team. Now, I don't think I love them picking up who they picked up in the draft. I hear people saying he's more like another Josh Giddey. I kind of agree. They have the same strengths, same weaknesses, and not only that, but you know, he's coming off an injury, so he's probably gonna have a redshirt year. Probably won't even see him when he does come back. He's still playing behind guard. So I just didn't love their draft pick in that situation. I think they'd probably be best to move that player at some point. I don't think his future is in OKC. Even though he's a hell of a point guard, I just don't see the fit. When you know you got SGA, no one's taking over that point guard position for at least another 7-8 years. Like that's set in stone. So I really don't know why a point guard was what they targeted in that. If anything, I'd have traded down and just got value for my pick another way, or traded out of this draft entirely. So I don't know. I thought they overplayed it to a degree. I get it. He's a hell of a prospect, one of the best prospects in the draft. But for you don't never see a path to him developing into what he is supposed to be. At the best, he's going to be a backup point guard for y'all going forward. And that's not the best way to utilize that piece, I don't think. So, it is what it is, man. Those are the type of things we're thinking about. Of course, I'm watching my Los Angeles Lakers see if they do a Jeremy Grant trade. We're not giving up 2 picks. That's what I understand for that particular piece. Unless we bring in Simons with him, as to which I have my questions about whether or not that really makes sense for the franchise. I like Simons a lot, but I don't know that he's exactly what we need when we talk about a point guard. He's a scorer, but he's a small guy, so he's probably going to get targeted, as we talked about earlier. So if I'm going to give up 2 picks, Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons is a worthy return for 2 picks plus salary in most standings. But for what it is that we are, I don't think it'll quite give us what we want. Anthony Simons would be somewhat of an upgrade from D'Angelo Russell, but I don't know, man. I'm just not excited about giving up 2 picks in a situation like that could potentially be lateral at best and create more defensive deficiencies than we're expecting, bringing in a smaller guy like Simons. So I don't know, man. I'm not really excited about that overall, but if we put ourselves in a position to have pieces that we can retrade that are more valuable than what it is that we have right now, maybe move on from some guys that we need to move on from who are injury prone, or a guy like Gabe Vincent who's on a not so good contract. Maybe that's addition by subtraction, and maybe in that regard you would like to do a deal like this. But all things equal, I'm not overly excited about bringing in those 2 pieces and getting rid of 2 picks. Not excited about that. So yeah, man, that's pretty much my take, man. I'm gonna go in here and do a little shopping in the Target, come back out, probably make another video talking about basketball, but I just wanted to give y'all a little update on my thoughts here and get ready for the summer league. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves. BDL44. Thank you all for watching.